Well, huh. Almost didn't see you there. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Orzammar for part 17 of Dragon Age Origins with the Therapist. It is so lovely to have you here for yet another episode. I hope you've been enjoying this as much as I've been enjoying playing it for you. It is an absolute blast so far. Tonight is going to be wild, I'm sure. So, as always, thank you so much for giving the stream a thumbs up. My eye gets itchy when there are people that are watching this video who haven't subbed and don't like the stream. It tells me, my itchy eye tells me that there's people that are watching this right now that aren't subbed to the channel. You should make sure that you do that. It really helps with the algorithm. Make sure you pop into the comments. Make sure you follow me in the links in the description. Tell people about this stream if you think they would enjoy it too. Make sure that when I start part 18, my eyes aren't itchy, alright? As always, if you want to watch these live, twitch.tv/DrMick. I'm live at 9:30 p.m. 6 days a week. We would love to see you. Alright, let's see what's going on here. We got a lot of stuff to check out tonight. This is really gonna be something. We got more squeaky guys over here. Let's go sell this.
That it lost a large number of comrades in the battle with the Darkspawn.
Me? I guess I did, yes. I didn't know all of them that well. Mostly just...
Okay. I'm unfamiliar with this name.
It's not important. You don't need to know who it was.
I cannot remember if I ever had anyone important to me. All I remember is being given orders.
I would gladly be following Duncan's orders right now, if I could.
It enjoys following others. I find that odd.
You wouldn't understand. Don't worry, I don't expect you to.
Well, there's a difference between following people autonomously and following people because you have to. In fact, there is merit, I think, to when folks understand that they are better off in a group when they commit to being a follower. We have a tendency to, I think, overblow the importance of leadership and undervalue the importance of people who know that following is the better position for them to be in. So I continue to admire that Alistair is willing to acknowledge that leadership is not for him, that he would much rather follow Duncan or follow me. That you can be a really adept follower, and honestly, it makes leadership easier when you're like that. Shale's entire experience with leadership is being commanded to do things by force. There is no autonomy in its response to command. Whereas Alistair is autonomously willing to follow people like Duncan and me, and there is a significant difference in that. If you are this is the difference between a leader who gains respect through their actions and through the way that they attend to the people that follow them, and a leader that demands it through fear and through blackmail and through manipulation. If you have people that are willing to follow you autonomously, it's an incredible experience. And if you're a person who has enough insight to know that following people autonomously is what is you're best suited for, own it. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, we're off to a hot start. I love the conversations people have with Shale. All right, let's go give these little squeaky dudes back to the Wrangler. That guy's, I gotta tell you, man, that guy's pretty lazy. Like, all you gotta do is literally walk up to those things and you've got them. They don't even run away. They don't even make it challenging.
You're the best Wrangler I've ever seen, but there's more out there.
12.
You're the best You're a trust
Yo.
Vala.
I just get 12 silver every time I bring him a squeaky dude. Diamond Quarter. So we have the Hall of Heroes, the Diamond Quarter, and Dust Town. And the Proving Grounds. Where do I want to... I'm going to go to the Diamond Quarter. Actually. Orzammar. Okay, seek out Steward Bandalore. The leadership of Orzammar is in chaos. Addressing the Assembly seems like the likely place to start looking for a solution. The Chamber of the Assembly is in the Diamond Quarter. Speak to Prince Balin's second in command. Prince Balin is one of 2 men who would take the throne. To earn an audience with Balin, you must speak to Vartag Devorn, his second in command. Vartag may be found in the Assembly Chamber, which is in the Diamond Quarter. Speak to Dulin Ferender. Lord Harrowmont is one of 2 men who could take the throne. To earn an audience with Harrowmont, you must speak to Dulin Ferender. You can find him either in Harrowmont's estate in the Diamond Quarter or in Tapster's Tavern. I don't recall seeing him in there. You met a woman named Filda in the Orzammar Commons who's praying for her son Ruck, which we'll find in the Deep Roads. Alright, we're going to go to the tavern and see if that dude's in the tavern. And if he's not, then we'll check the Diamond Quarter. Ooh, floor carving. The City of Orzammar. The dwarves are lauded for their craftsmanship, and the City of Orzammar is one of their finest works. Orzammar lies at the heart of the Frostback Mountains, deep underground. The city arcs outward from a royal palace, which is built around a natural lava vent, continually fountaining liquid rock, which both lights and heats the entire cavern. The topmost tier of Orzammar is home to the noble caste, with their palaces fanning out in both directions from the court of the king, as well as the Shaperate, which serves as a repository for all dwarven knowledge. The lower tier is the commons, where the merchant caste holds sway and where the finest works of Orzammar's craftsmen are for sale. In the center of the river of lava, connected to the commons by a causeway, are the proving grounds, a sacred arena where the dwarves, by ancient tradition, settle their disputes. On one side of the fiery river are the ruins of the old dwarven palaces, fallen into disrepair, which the locals call Dust Town, now home to the city's castless. On the other side of the river are the Deep Roads, which once joined the sprawling dwarven empire together, but now, after centuries of darkspawn incursions, are largely sealed off. Nearly all knowledge of this network of underground passages has been lost, even to its builders. From the Pursuit of Knowledge, the Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Geniti. Yeah, see, we got all these wall carvings all over the place. I gotta make sure that I read. Casts. Ooh, good. More context. Visitors to Orzammar should keep in mind that the hierarchies of dwarven society are much more complex than our own. It is easy to gravely insult a man simply by mistaking his position. Since this can lead to unnecessary loss of life and limb, I will attempt to mitigate the danger for my fellow travelers. The society of Orzammar is divided into nobles, warriors, smiths, artisans, miners, merchants, and servants. Now, you are undoubtedly saying to yourself, we have all those divisions among our own people. This is a dangerous misconception. Certainly we do have nobility, artisans, merchants, and these positions are largely inherited from our parents. However, the younger children of noblemen often choose to be artisans or soldiers. The sons of merchants may join the army or become servants, or apprentice themselves to a craftsman. This is all freely chosen, limited perhaps by the circumstances of birth, but still chosen. What is a matter of choice for most human folk is dictated entirely by birth for dwarves. No one may become a smith who was not born to smith caste parents. A servant who marries a noble woman will never be a noble himself, and although his daughters would be nobles, his sons would be servants, for daughters inherit the caste of their mother, while sons inherit the caste of their father. From the... wow. Alright. That's pretty interesting. I mean, it's very rigid. Very rigid. Beginning to see why so many dwarves are willing to become traders or slow through all this crap up. Yeah, man, I mean, why wouldn't you leave? Oh, cool, the tavern's fixed. If you're like a servant, you have no way of working your way up. Like, that's the thing. The only way to work your way up through that society is to become a paragon. Is to literally become deified. Alright, so who are we looking for? We are looking for Dulin Ferender. Doesn't look like Dulin's here. Probably in the Diamond Quarter. So I'm gonna go to Dust Town. I want to see what Dust Town's all about before we start dealing with nobility.
Let me guess. This is where the poor people live.
Yeah, Alistair, you're probably right, man. Reduced to the shambles of...
There's a rich
Whoa!
We'll get plenty for their kid once we cut them out of it.
Now, it would be very easy for us to take that experience that we just had and say, well, Dusttown's an absolute shit show. What a frightening place. The poor people of Orzammar are unhinged. While that wasn't great, and while I needed to defend myself, it's actually entirely unsurprising that that would happen. I mean, we are in a space right now where folks are probably desperate to get their needs met. They need food. They need shelter. They need water. They need some form of currency to be able to purchase those things. And these are folks who have been told you have absolutely no way out of the situation you're in. We literally just read that. You have no way to get out of this circumstance. So when somebody comes in that looks like they may have some resources that could potentially get you your next meal, you're going to resort to either begging, which can get exhausting, because my guess is that most dwarven nobility probably don't take kindly to that, or you attack. You do whatever you have to do to get your needs met. So while it's certainly not okay that they attacked me with swords and tried to kill me to take my armor, it is entirely understandable. And I'm not going to sit here and blame them for that. I'm going to blame the system that they live in that makes it impossible for them to have any other way of getting their needs met. There's no system that allows them to advance their way up. So, of course, they're going to resort to violence. So would we. This is going to be... I mean, and I, as a city elf, can certainly empathize with the plight of the folks that live in Dusttown. Because I essentially live in the Dusttown version of Denerim. Rogek.
Who are you? You don't look like any guardsman I ever saw, and that's not much of a uniform.
I'm Mick, a Grey Warden.
Oh, you looking for a chance to bring in some coin? Could be I have that opportunity. Especially for someone with a few connections above ground.
What are you asking?
Human kings, you know, they make these ridiculous laws. Like about who gets to buy and sell lyrium, the sacred gift the stone provides us to show her love. No law should regulate that. The laws are meant to keep mages away from the stuff, so there's always buyers in the Circle Tower. I got one man named Godwin. He's expecting a delivery of a stone's weight. You want an investment opportunity? I could see fit to, say, sell you that lyrium instead, at the reasonable price of 50 sovereigns. You can keep it, or, since you can travel freely from here, sell it to Godwin, who you know is buying. And if you bring back his return order, I could pay you, say, 20 sovereigns as a finder's fee.
Ah, and alas, when you have people who are desperate to make ends meet, and you happen to have a shady system going on, you can take advantage of people. I mean, this guy, it's kind of heavy-handed with making the guy sound the way he does, but this guy's essentially running organized crime. And it's very easy if you sit in a position of privilege to say, well, I'd never join organized crime ring? Of course you wouldn't. You don't need to. But if these people are so destitute that they don't have any options, and this guy's got 20 sovereigns, it means you could feed your family for the next 3 months, you're considering this. You're totally considering this. Now, I don't like any of these options. Well, no, this is probably the best one. It must be dangerous if you're paying so much. Like, I don't know that I'm ready to turn him in. I don't know the circumstances of this guy's existence here. Must be dangerous if you're paying so much.
More so for someone like you, I guess. Most dwarves born down here have a natural immunity. Other races, there are problems if they spend too long with the ore. The real issue is that lyrium's valuable. It's only found down here, and human mages can't work without it.
Yeah, I don't know that at the end of the day, no matter what, it's not worth the risk. I don't need to be lugging that much lyrium, given everything we know about lyrium. I don't need to be taking that to the mages. I got more shit to worry about than lugging a bunch of poisonous ore to the mages tower as the mule here. Now, I don't like that this guy's doing what he's doing. I don't know how much trouble people are getting in by doing this, but right now, this is not an affair that I really intend to get involved with at all. Sounds like I wouldn't approve of your kind of opportunity.
Long as you keep your eyes down and your mouth shut, we've got no further business.
Okay. Yeah, not interested.
Whoever you're looking for, it's not me, I swear.
That tells me that there's potentially anybody who comes down here that isn't somebody who lives here is here to grab folks. Alamar's Emporium. What's up, Alamar?
What are you looking for? We got nothing to buy for the likes of you. Or maybe you wanted to sell.
I just want to see what you got.
Of course.
See what you got, my dude. Ooh, a book that reveals the secrets of the Orlesian bards. Yes, please. Give me that tasty, tasty lore. Oh, and unlock the specialization? Oh, I wanted lore. Oh, well.
Yes.
I have absolutely no issue if the people of this town are hostile toward me.
I see the way they all look at me. They think I'm less than dirt.
Being such a proud people, you'd think they'd take care of each other.
Your clothes are so fancy. Did you get them topside?
I'm asking the questions. Yes, I did.
My ma'am used to say they don't got no stone to protect them topside. If I go up there, I'm gonna fall into the sky.
You just have to hold on real tight with your feet. I like that. You know, adults know more about the world than kids do, obviously. Adults know more of the dangers. They know more of the politics, the environment, the social structure. So sometimes in order to get kids to stick to something that is not going to get the adults and such in trouble, adults will create certain stories as a means to hold their kids into the position that they're in. It's not always done maliciously. But this guy's example, right? My mom used to say that there's no stone to protect you on topside, and if I go up there, I'm going to fall into the sky. That is something you tell a kid to scare them into never considering leaving. Because what we know about the dwarves is that if you go topside, you are cast out. You are totally excommunicated from the dwarves and seen as even less than a servant. less than the lowest caste. So if you're a parent, it's very hard to explain that to a kid. Because they don't understand how abstract that is. Because it is very abstract. But they will understand something very concrete. Which is if you go up there, you're going to fall into the sky. It's enough for a kid to go, oh shit, well I don't want to go up there then. Problem is, when you don't have education, and you don't have good representation, you carry that belief into your adulthood. Because why wouldn't you? It's not like you're exposed to anything else. This guy's never been topside. He doesn't know how the sky works. My guess is that the education that servants get is not good enough to explain to him that if you go topside, you don't fall into the sky. In fact, it's very similar to what's going on here. You just don't have rock above you. So this guy, as a full adult, probably believes that to an extent. And so for me to be shitty with him is for me to not take his context and lack of education into account. And for me to blame him for a lack of education around that is completely misguided. Again, the Dwarven system has a lot of problems. And this guy not ever having any kind of information to let him know what it's like topside is indicative of that. It's a systemic issue. It's not an issue with this guy. This guy's not an idiot. This guy knows what he's been told. So I'm going to just say, no, that doesn't happen. I know that's true. Maybe it helps him expand his horizons a little bit.
Yes. When my dad left, he never came back. Who's to say he didn't fall up, eh?
Oh, your dad got excommunicated by a really shitty system that you are embedded in and are at the bottom of the totem pole of.
Don't
I gotta
fall
go,
into
man.
the sky when you go back up there.
That's assimilation. That is assimilation right there in spades. This guy had an experience that violated his expectations. His expectation was that his dad was going to come home. His experience was that his dad did not come home. That creates cognitive dissonance. It creates aversive arousal. So, as a means to square that up in his mind, what he did was he took his experience and he assimilated it into his pre-existing expectation about what it means to go topside, which is that his mother told him, you fall into the sky. So he said, well, my dad went up top. He never came back. It must be that he fell into the sky. Boom. Dissonance over, because he has a story for it. He has an explanation. Good enough. In order for him to accommodate and shift his expectations to fit the experience itself, this guy would have to learn about the entirety of the caste system of the dwarves. He would have to learn what it means to go topside, what that means from a societal perspective, what that means for his status in the community. That's the only possible way that he could change his expectations. So when he says, yeah, dad fell into the sky because he went up and never came back, it makes complete sense from a schema standpoint. Complete sense. So that's what assimilation looks like if you've ever watched my YouTube video about cognitive schemas. Perfect example right there.
Coin. You got any coin? I haven't eaten since yesterday.
I do, but the game's not going to let me give it to you.
You got a crust of bread to...
I wish I did, man.
Well, look at that. It's not often old Nadezda sees a fine-dressed stranger here in Dust Town. Help a poor cripple.
Wow, BioWare. Good lord. Here's 5 silvers. Buy yourself some food.
Well, thank you truly, my lord. That's right good of you. It takes a stranger to notice how bad things are, huh? No dwarf would lift a sodding finger. Excuse my language. What takes you out of the diamond quarter, stranger? You got a vice you're looking for old Nadezda to fill?
No, I don't. That 5 silver was for you. It was not for my own gratification. You know, the amazing thing about this entire system of dwarves is it would really perpetuate a... Oh man, how do I want to explain this? This has been going on for decades, centuries, millennia, for all we know. So when you're a dwarf and you're born into the caste that you're born in, everybody just immediately is like, yeah, okay, well that's how it is, right? Like you're there for a reason, you're there because you were born into it, that's just how you are. At basically every level, there is probably some degree of acceptance that you are in the caste that you are in. Like it just is inherently who you are. The reason you're in there is a reason that's been going on for so long that it must be a good reason. So when she says that, you know, no dwarf that comes down here would ever lift a finger to help me out, it's probably because those dwarves think, well, I'm in the caste I'm in because that's just how it is. So it's the same thing for them. I got the problems I deal with in mine. They got the problems they deal with theirs. It would not facilitate a degree of societal collaboration. In particular, because there is absolutely no motivation for anybody at any level to pull people up through the caste system. There's no reason to do it. And so why would you give silver to the people that are servants? You don't have any reason to believe that like you would essentially say, well, that's just how their caste is. That's what it is. And it's really a sad state of affairs that there's so much rigidity around it. There's no flexibility in this system to even consider and critically think about it, right? And we talked to that guy last episode who critically thinks about this, and he's immediately cast out. This would even be potentially more useful as a system. Like, this system would work better, I think, if you actually had representation of every caste in the leadership meetings. Like, if you had a council, sort of like we think about maybe like the House of Representatives or the Senate or whatever in the United States, which I realize has its problems, but bear with me. If you had you had leadership from the servant class, leadership from the nobility, from the artisans, from the smiths, everybody at that table with equal power and equal representation, to an extent, that would actually potentially make this a better system, because you would have decisions being made for the betterment of all castes. Where maybe if you're a servant caste, you don't mind it so much because you're compensated well enough that you can actually live. You can eat, you can enjoy leisure activities, you can, whatever, in the same way that somebody in the nobility could. But because the only representation in positions of leadership is nobility, who's making decisions on behalf of people that they don't even come down to visit, and perhaps even objectify, you have people missing the mark like crazy. You're going to have people really only acting in the interests of who they represent and what they live. If you grew up in the noble class, that's the thing that you're most intimately familiar with. You're not going to be intimately familiar with the issues that people in the servant class are dealing with. And that's a real problem. So representation at levels of leadership is very important. And then, in theory, having representation that's proportionate to the amount of people in every caste is also important. There are infinitely more people, probably, that work in the servant caste here for the dwarves than are in nobility. These are real problems that we're seeing right now, right? Like, if you have a system that's built on how much money you can have in order to campaign, right, you're inherently going to have a biased section of leadership, no matter who they claim to represent. It's a real problem. This is where we start getting into the whole, like, money and politics discussion that I'll save for another day. Anyway, you got a vice you're looking for old Nedizda to fill. Tell me about Dusttown. That would tickle my fancy.
It's pretty much as you see it. The raw stone where the casteless live, because we're not welcome elsewhere. You're born to wear a branded face in Orzammar, and you'll live your life in Dusttown.
You mean by brand?
Means you don't exist. It tells everyone who sees you not to work with you, not to serve you, and not to care if you're hurt. The Deep Lords burn it into us the day we're born, so no one accidentally oversteps her place.
I mean, you can see it on her face. Brutal. Again, in general, chat, don't ask questions like this. But I'm going to ask because I'm interested. But don't ask people how they got crippled.
I'd say it was an accident, try to get some sympathy coin. But you look like you'd rather hear the truth. I was running protection for the Carta when some guardsmen caught me. Duster I was with had coin for a bribe, but I took a stand. Guardsmen broke my sodding kneecaps and had me kneel in dung until the infection set in. Never healed proper.
Wow. Man, these people are just trying to get by. This is crazy. I mean, like, this is the kind of stuff people resort to when they don't have the means, and then you get somebody who, I mean, again, when you're branded, right? She's essentially saying, you get branded, you're objectified. Those people are dealing with objects; they're not dealing with people. It's the same way that when people had slaves back in the day in the U.S., they're treated as objects. It's not people. You start seeing them as people, and then there's empathy to be had. So you have mass objectification of an entire group of people. This is the kind of behavior you get, especially when people are on a power trip or they're overcompensating for something. I mean, this is terrible. They just get away with that?
I don't know where you're from, but in Orzammar, casteless have no lineage, so it's no crime to hurt you. You're born to wear a branded face in Orzammar, and you'll live your life in Dust Town.
Wow. And there's no repercussions for hurting folks down here.
I'll just stay out of your way then.
My God, man. I wouldn't be surprised if every single person here said, fuck it, I'm out of here, I'm going to the surface. I have to believe that there is some sort of oppressive force. There has got to be some sort of widespread systemic force that holds these people back from leaving. It's very easy for all of us to look at this and go, why the hell wouldn't you get out of here? But the guy we just talked to 5 minutes ago gave us a great example. There is probably some level of superstition. There are probably myths that have been perpetuated by the nobility that make it so that they don't even know that leaving is an option, or that if they leave, they're going to fall into the sky. You'll get eaten alive. They may even be told you'll be treated worse if you leave Orzammar. You think it's bad here, you ought to see what it's like on the surface. Leaving could be expensive. I mean, there's all sorts of shit that could be holding these people back from just up and leaving. Systems that need people to be exploited create narratives that the exploited get access to exclusively as a means to self-perpetuate the exploitation. It's what makes these types of systems so nefarious. Because these people hold a bunch of narratives right now where it's like, nah, man, this is what we deal with. This is who we are. They've been objectified since birth. There is probably some chance that if you ask the majority of the people chilling in Dust Town right now, they would tell you that they deserve what happens to them. She can't afford to get angry about what that guy did to her. Because if there's no recourse for somebody punishing somebody down here, if she starts talking out about that and they kill her, there's no recourse for anybody down here. None. So these people just try to keep to themselves. They try to survive. They do what they can, and they are beholden to whatever has been told to them about what's on the surface. These people are being actively held down and oppressed by this system. And it's terrible. They've been told so many different things about what could happen to them. And that screws with your mind when you don't actually know. You don't actually know what it's like up there. And even me coming down here as an outsider and trying to tell them what it's like on the surface is probably not going to go very well. Because one, they might not believe me. They might believe that I'm a paid actor on behalf of people who have been out to harm them. Or if they acknowledge the reality that it's safer on the surface than it is here, then they have to very legitimately consider whether they would actually want to bail, and that is a no small feat. That's a huge task relative to their living conditions. I mean, this is really terrible. Like, this is like absolutely abhorrent stuff right now that we're witnessing here. Kudos to BioWare for putting this in the game. Yeah, why must I leave? Why can't you be better? Exactly. Exactly. The ability to leave is an absolute privilege. A privilege that so many people don't have.
Spare a bit?
Linda.
Have you a coin to spare, my lord? It's for my son. He's sick. He hasn't any clean clothes to wear or anything to eat today. Neither have I.
Jesus, man. This really is... I would actually have preferred that BioWare force your hand with generosity down here. I hate that this is even an option that you can choose. Absolutely hate it. Here's 5 silvers. Buy yourself a meal.
Thank you. That a stranger would care so much when my own family barred me from their halls unless I'm willing to. But no! I can't bear to even think of it!
Holy shit. You seem upset. Is there some way that I can help?
I wish there were. My name is Erlinda. I wasn't always like this. I was born to a mining caste family. We weren't wealthy, but I never went hungry before. Now it's all gone, and it's my own fault. Ancestors curse me, but there's nothing I can do to set it right.
What happened?
I fell in love. He seemed so exotic, you know? Tough and smart, and never had to bow his head to anyone. He was casteless, and I know he was just trying to father a higher caste child so he could petition for status. But our child was a son, casteless like his father. My parents disowned me and stripped my caste from me. Unless I agree to abandon the child in the deep roads and pretend I never bore him.
What the fuck? Jesus Christ! My God! All of this for, like, abstract bullshit. Like, we are going down the pet peeve lane for your boy DrMick right now. I tell you what, man. People that make these types of decisions based off of just symbolically created construction, that was off of social construction, I don't have a lot of respect for that. Unbelievable. How dare you be with this person who's casteless because of these archaic ass rules where if the gender somehow matters, or the sex assigned at birth even. Who even knows how gender gets expressed amongst the dwarves? Your sex assigned at birth is the same as your parents' gender identity. Then you are immediately in that caste. And then this woman's family's like, oh, well, you didn't have a girl, so go kill the baby in the deep roads, or you're done. And your family can strip your caste? What? That goes to show you, that is the most obvious thing so far that shows us that this entire system is bullshit. This entire system is bullshit. Because if you actually adhered to the rules as they are written, it would not be possible to strip a person of their caste. You are born into the caste that your same-sex parent is, regardless of anything else. The fact that you can give a person within that caste the power to strip the caste tells you that it's a completely fabricated label. It is absolute nonsense that is used to perpetuate whatever function the hierarchy has for whoever benefits from it. And I'm guessing when we go to the Diamond Quarter, we're going to see who benefits from it. This is awful. Absolutely awful. And the folks on this level just simply don't have the means and resources to be able to fight this battle. Wow, man. Oh my god. That is horrible.
I cannot abandon my baby. The Shapers teach that only children of true lineage exist, not those born castless. But they never carried a child. He cries like any other infant, and smiles when he's warm and full. I can't kill him because of an accident of birth, an accident I forced on him.
I mean, that is real accountability. I really appreciate that. I am in full admiration that this woman is willing to take accountability for this. It's not the child's fault that the child exists. Man, this just feels like such a whiff. Maybe I could reason with your family. What possible thing am I gonna say to her family? I mean, I suppose I could ask her if she could take her son to the surface and see what she says, if it's even something she's contemplated. Because I do think there could be merit in me saying, hey, I can get you to the surface. Like, I can get you out of here and take you up somewhere. I've got some clout. I'm a Grey Warden. Like, I could use my power and pull here to help her out if she's willing to go. Let's see if it's something she's considered. Can't you just take your son to the surface?
I thought about that. They say there's no caste up there. That humans don't care about lineage. I've never met a surfacer, though. I thought it might not be safe.
I thought it might not be safe. This is exactly what we've been talking about. These people have been sold a bill of goods that you are safer here than you are if you go to the surface. I'm from the surface.
And you've been kinder than any of my countrymen. Perhaps it's a sign. If it gives my son a chance to live, I will go. Thank you, stranger, for opening my eyes. Perhaps I'll see you next in the light of the sun.
Hell yeah, man. If I find her up there, I'm gonna help her out. Hell yeah. Fuck your family. They're gonna treat you like that. Good for her. And that, my friends, is the power of representation. Again, that has been a huge theme throughout this entire game. I just single-handedly shifted her internal representation of who is on the surface. She has been given a single story about the surface. It's scary. It's dangerous. You won't make it. I show up as a person from the surface. I understand the context that I'm in. The importance of reading that codex entry. The importance of educating ourselves about this system. I show up to her. I'm kind to her. I give her some money. I give her some encouragement. I listen to her plight. And she goes, holy shit, maybe the surface is not so bad. I didn't say, yeah, there's shitty people up there too, but there are people like me. She's like, well, shit, it completely deconstructs the story that she had about the surface, and now she feels empowered to do something with her life. It's a big deal. This is why diverse representation, particularly to people down here, would likely empower them to get the hell out of here. And if that collapses the system in some way, good. Man, this has got me all fired up.
If I were tall and beautiful like you, I could make all sorts of money.
people breathe down here with this, with all these fires going while there's like no oxygen? These people have nothing, and I'm about to like rob them and go through their shit. This feels dirty. This feels really oh man, dwarven hell. No, oh man. Oh man, it's dirty, man. It's dirty. I just stole the prized family helmet. I literally just stole that helmet from whoever lives there. Oh man. You know what's wild? It's so funny playing these games now. I'm putting it back. Can't put it back. Are you kidding me? Hold on. Hold on. Can't put it back. I can't put it back. Oh God! Let it be known I made the effort to go put it back. I made the effort to go put it back. I wonder what the functional purpose of the castless is, though. Like, why have an entire group of people that are disallowed from working and contributing? Because you need to use them to teach people a lesson, to hold them into their relative shitty casts. It's absolutely by design. You use the castless as an example. Don't do this. Don't critically think. Don't push up. Don't fuck around with this system. Because if you do, we'll strip you of your caste. You think it's bad being a servant? Imagine being casteless. Stay in your lane. That's the entire point of having the casteless. You would want to make sure that the casteless are seen. They probably do all the shitty work. They're probably taken advantage of, and they're used as an example to people. Don't you dare challenge where you are, because it could always be worse. Can't always be better. In fact, there's like no opportunity to be better. But it could be worse. So don't you push back. That's why. That's the only guess I have. And it's terrible. Right? It's super shitty. Multiple times highlighted people with disabilities as castless too. Yep. Yeah, it's terrible. Oh, the casteless. Here we go. The caste system in Orzammar includes many groups of privilege. The nobility and the warriors above all others, but to a lesser degree, the merchants and the smiths and the miners. Tradition establishes a clear hierarchy, but as in any culture with an upper class, there is also a clear underclass. These unfortunates, the so-called casteless, are believed to be descendants of criminals and other undesirables. They have been looked down upon since Orzammar's foundation. They have taken up residence in a place called Dusttown, a crumbling ruin on the fringe of Orzammar's common areas. Orzammar society considers these casteless lower than even the servant caste. Indeed, the casteless are not allowed to become servants, as it is too honorable of a position. They are seen as a little better than animals. Their faces branded at birth to mark them as the bastard children of the kingdom. Their home district, little more than a slum, is a haven for crime, organized and otherwise. Orzammar's guards seemingly cannot be bothered to patrol its streets. The best that most casteless dwarves can hope for is a life at the whim of a local crime lord, ended abruptly by violence or an overabundance of toxic lichen ale. Even so, there is some hope for the casteless, a dangling rope that offers a way up into greater Orzammar society. Since a dwarf's caste is determined by the parent of the same sex, the male child of a nobleman is part of that noble's house and caste. Strangely, It is acceptable for casteless women to train in the arts of courtly romance to woo nobles and warriors. They are known as noble hunters. Any male born from such a union is considered a joyous event considering the low rate of dwarven fertility. The mother and the entire family are then taken in by the father's house, though they retain their caste. Dwarves we know on the surface are also considered casteless once they leave Orzammar. Although this is only relevant to those who return, if they're allowed to return at all. Dwarves who leave for the surface, the sun-touched as they're often called behind their backs, lose their connection to the stone in favor of the ancestors and thus are worthy of little more than pity, for upon dying they are said to be lost to the stone forever. Put that way, it seems a sad existence indeed. Yeah, no shit, Brother Genitivi. Oh my god. Yeah, so you try to do sex work with the nobles, you hope to God you get pregnant, and then you hope it's a boy. And I'm guessing that same-gender relationships are probably not allowed here. Because this is already archaic as shit. So I can only imagine. We're talking like hetero engagements only. This place is rough. And then this guy wants to bring God into their lives. Or the Maker, I guess. Oh, I'm sure they would, Adorable. I am sure that queer folks would be turned castless immediately. Yeah. I'm right with you. 100%. Yeah, the Maker intended all of this. Is just what you want to hear. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. The Maker created this. Pray to him. He's just challenging you. The Maker is just testing you. That's all. He's just brought you a life of adversity to show you how strong you are. Diamond Quarter, let's go.
Good day.
Atrashvala.
Damn, look at how high class this is.
I remember when the Grey Wardens would visit. Oh, the festivities we had. Those days are past, aren't they?
I hope the Assembly picks a king soon.
So the closer you live to the surface, the higher class you are. Unless you're actually on the surface.
So it would seem, Alistair. A little odd, isn't it? A little bit weird.
You have come at a difficult time. Orzammar is ailing for want of a king.
Orzammar
Lord
Crier?
Balin suspected of personally defacing statues of the Paragons. Shocking allegations abound.
I just get paid to speak the truth. If you have an issue, speak to my employer.
Huge amounts of people being looked over in Dust Town.
Atrashvala. Is it true there's civil war on the surface, too?
I'm in Mall.
No offense, but I've often wondered how you people get by with your awkwardly long limbs.
I do just fine.
This has dragged on too long. It's an insult to King Endrin's memory.
This area is huge. Hieromont's estate. Oh, there's Doolin. Alright. What's up, man?
Welcome to Lord Hieromont's estate.
Thank you. A fine estate indeed.
Hieramont is the rightful king, and you know that.
Even Balin's father rejected him in the end.
These are the personal apartments of High General Lord Hieramont. No visitors are allowed at this time.
What are you gonna do about it? I'm a Grey Warden, bitch. Oh, let's talk to this guy.
We are honored by your trust, Warden.
Are you? That's cool, man.
I heard there was a Grey Warden here. I am Doolin Forrender, second to Lord Hieramont, King Endrin's own choice as successor. Word is spreading that the surface may suffer a blight. It is shameful we are not in a better position to help.
I would speak with Lord Hieramont.
In an ordinary time, Lord Hieramont would be honored to meet you. Unfortunately, we've already caught more than one of Balin's spies approaching Hieramont under a pretense of friendship. So I'm afraid I won't be able to take your word. If you want to speak to Hieramont, you will need to prove he can trust you.
What do you want me to do? Honestly, I'm willing to be a little bit nasty here because they respect me. Stop playing games, dude. This treaty compels you to help.
You're asking the King of Orzammar to send armies to the surface, but Orzammar has no king and we have no army. Right now, the men who should be fighting Darkspawn are brawling in the street. If this situation is not resolved, we face civil war. If you want Lord Hieramant's time now, you'll have to prove you have no intention of turning against him later.
What do you want me to do? So you would make the whole world wait for your bullshit.
If you wish to show you have no loyalty to Balin, then work against him in Hieramant's name. Balin is hosting a proving today, supposedly to honor his father's memory. The Deshers take it very seriously, and unfortunately, Balin found some way to blackmail or intimidate House Hieramant's best fighters into stepping down.
You know what? I'll bet you both of these guys suck. Like, seriously, man. You want my support, and the way that you want me to support is by denouncing the other guy? I'm a goddamn Grey Warden. Like, I want to pull rank here. I don't give a shit. This guy, okay, this guy is probably so wrapped up in Hieramont shit that he's drinking whatever Kool-Aid Hieramant's got. Like, I don't really trust any of these people. Because everybody here who supports Hieramont stands to gain from Hieramont being the king, and the same with Balin. And I'm sure both have reasons that they've done everything that they've done. So you're asking me to middle in this bullshit when my entire reason for being here is because everybody... You got Darkspawn coming up through the deep roads, man. I want both of them in the same damn room, and I want to see how they respond to the Blight. That's what I want. Ah, man. My chest is just tight right now while I'm talking to this guy. I don't give a shit about this bullshit, man. Like you've been playing clean the entire way. I'm sure. I'm sure you've been on the straight and narrow, and Balin's just the biggest douchebag ever. I'm sure that's how this is going. All right, there's my reaction. Now I'm gonna walk it back a little bit. All right, let's actually do the DrMick thing on this, and let's try to figure out what's actually happening here. There is probably with all of the tension that's going on in Orzammar right now, what people tend to do is they look to leadership and they look to people that they trust. My guess is that this guy has had a really good experience with Harrowmont, hence why he follows him. And so he is deeply invested in trying to make sure that Harrowmont retains power, because there's probably something that he stands to gain from it. I'm sure nobody in Orzammar is benefiting from the tension right now that's going on with who is our united leader, especially if this is a group of folks who are used to having a king that leads them and makes the call. So where this guy is coming from makes sense. If this is legitimately the way that Harrowmont is going to see me as being in his favor, well, then what I want to say to this guy is, well, that's pretty misguided, my dude. Like, you're not, this is not how you're going to get my favor. This, I'm not about to just like do this randomly. So I get it if that's what you got to bring to the table. But if I'm going to hold a boundary with this guy and be like, nope, you find somebody else. I'll figure out a way to talk to Harrowmont whether you want me to or not. But this does not look favorably upon him, that anybody that comes in here who wants to talk about real world issues, you're going to sit here and ask him to talk shit about the other guy. That's not the kind of guy I want to work with. I just assume let the Darkspawn take you guys over and work with people who are actually not middling with a bunch of bullshit and perpetuating a terrible organizational system. Why would your assembly care who wins some tournament?
The proving is a contest of the best warriors in Orzammar. By fighting, they show who has the ancestors' favor. If you were to enter the proving as Lord Harrowmont's champion, it would prove your loyalty beyond a doubt. Balin would never work with anyone who humiliated him in that way. Harrowmont would have no fear of meeting with you then.
I'm not really in this. I'm not in. How do I want to play this? I don't want to do that. Why would I fight as the champion for a guy I've never met? It's a ridiculous proposition. A ridiculous proposition. That I am an outsider. I'm a Grey Warden. I'm an elf. And you're going to have me come down into Orzammar, not meet the guy that I'm fighting for to show that I have loyalty to him. Are you nuts? I'm not going on this runaround.
Then I'm afraid your only choice is to wait until there's a winner. Lord Harrowmont cannot risk his life working with someone of unproven loyalties. If you change your mind, let me know. The proving is this afternoon, and Lord Harrowmont could certainly use you on his side.
House Harrowmont is honored to have you here.
I gotta tell you, man, I thought that the Dalish elves were frustrating. The dwarves have been immensely frustrating. Like, immensely frustrating. You want to talk about trees for the forest?
You must be under great strain with the blight upon the land. I will pray to the stone for you.
Lady sounds like Eris Morn. Look at these. Look at these living quarters. Like, what a bedroom. Bathtub. Damn, dude. Yeah, right? Like, the Dalish look like a polished society. Relative to these guys. Alright, so... Well, alright, now we know what we're working with as it relates to that. I need to know more about what's going on with Balin. If Balin's a complete jackass, then alright.
Lord Balin is the voice of change and defense. Lord Harrowmont is the voice of stagnation and ruin.
Okay. Royal Palace. Let's see what else is up here.
Old King Endrin would weep to see Orzammar in such a state.
Bet. Chamber of the Assembly. This is actually ridiculous how large this area is. The Shaperate. Oh shit. Wow, man. Holy cow.
Thief! Who would dare take from the memories? Warden, I'm outraged. A thief in the Shaperate. What have we been reduced to?
Get a good look at him?
I did. He was bald, with the most garish brand across his head. Almost like he took pride in being castless. Imagine. He's probably in the slums somewhere. As if he'd find a buyer for a stolen tome in Dust Town. They couldn't know the value.
It's so easy to get mad at an individual like this guy for having this view. And I cannot emphasize enough, chat, that our anger is better directed at the people who perpetuate this entire system. Every single person here that is not in the leadership that makes the decisions is a bystander to the system itself. There are some people who are able to more actively participate in it than others. But this guy saying stuff like, oh my god, how could somebody be proud of being castless? Oh, they probably don't understand the value. This is all part of a system that has been created to pit these folks against each other and to objectify the castless. This guy probably has no better representation of all of this than anybody in any other caste does. The only people that really understand the entire way that all of this works are the people that are making the decisions. And the reason that you can say that is because those people are choosing to continue to perpetuate this system, which very much hurts lots of people. So though it is okay to hold this guy accountable to being, like, to engaging in casteism, so to speak, if we get too deeply focused on him as an individual and we lose sight of the system he's embedded in, we lose the ability to make some wider, more sweeping change. You have to hold the system itself accountable, and the way that you hold systems accountable is to hold the leadership accountable, not the constituents.
Perhaps you should stand over there instead.
Oh, okay. It's a good way to tell me to back off. On my list, Gonza. Alright, the Legion of Steel. Let's learn about the Legion of Steel. Paragon Caridin vanished in the 11th year of the reign of King Valtor, and with the Paragon, the entire process for golem manufacture was lost. Expeditions were sent into the deep roads to track him, but the Darkspawn drove them all back. Finally, in the 2nd year of the reign of Queen Gaitha, 126 golems, the entire Legion of Steel, were sent to recover the Paragon. None returned. The Shaper of Golems refused to support any further attempts to find Caridin, and the Paragon was officially declared dead. The Shaperate never recovered from the loss of an entire legion of golems, and never again allowed an all-golem regiment in the deep roads. And the Stone Halls of the Dwarves by Brother Genetivi. Man, is Brother Genetivi the only person that ever wrote anything?
Oh, pardon me. Were you looking for a particular volume? Not that I could really help. I don't know the libraries very well. I'm just doing some research.
Kinda research.
I was looking for something about the Orton Tig. It was lost during the last Blight. and there aren't many records left. They were a noble house once, descended from the Paragon Orton, who composed the grand epic of the Seven Brothers and the Ortonic Symphony. My mother's family believes they were descended from Kalana Orton, who was training in Orzammar when the Tig fell. I'm even named for the house, Orta. Unfortunately, any records would be buried in the Tig's ruins, somewhere in the deep roads.
I could try to find him.
You're from the surface. What do you know about fighting Darkspawn? There aren't even any expeditions planned until they settle this election. Otherwise, you need special permission from the Assembly or some great lord.
Now, I am not going to take her hostility personally. And neither should you. She doesn't know I'm a Grey Warden. I'm a freaking elf that just walked in here wearing a bomb-ass suit of armor, but she doesn't know that I'm a Grey Warden. So the idea that I would just so casually talk about going into the Deep Roads and potentially fighting Darkspawn would be weird to her. It would be weird, and she would probably think that it's some kind of false bravado. I don't blame her at all for having that experience. So if I take her reaction personally, we're off to a terrible start. It's important, as I have explained through several of these episodes, to take the context of the people you're engaging with into account when you engage with them. I don't take what she said personally. Now I can say, I'm actually a Grey Warden. So, I have fought Darkspawn. And she can go, oh, cool. Neat.
A Grey Warden? Mother always said that if anyone could find the Tig, it was the Wardens. I hear Prince Balin and Lord Harrowmont have both been sending out small teams these days. Yes, if you can find the Tig in any records, that could do it. That could prove I'm a noble. If you could. Maybe now that you're looking. It's almost too much to hope.
See, no promises. Look at all these books. Oh. Oh, I'm excited, chat. Story time. There isn't a dwarf alive who remembers the deep roads as they once were. They were the network of tunnels that joined the Tigs together. To be honest, it isn't even right to give them such a simple term as tunnels. They are works of art with centuries of planning demonstrated in the geometry of their walls, with the statues of the paragons that watch over travelers, with the flow of lava that keeps the deep roads lit and warm. The cloud gazers up on the surface talk of the Imperial Highway, built by the Magisters of old, a raised walkway that crossed thousands of miles, something that could only have been built by magic. Perhaps it is comparable to the deep roads, although we dwarves didn't need magic. I suppose it doesn't matter anymore. The Darkspawn ruled the deep roads now. When Orzammar sealed off the entrances to the deep roads, abandoning everything that lay out there, we handed over the kingdom that was to the black bastards forever. To think that there are Genlocks crawling over the Bonamar now, tearing down our statues and defiling our greatest works. Corruption covers everything we built out there. Every dwarf who goes out and comes back says that it gets worse with each passing year. The foulness spread a little further. And the cloud gazers think the Darkspawn are gone just because they aren't spilling out onto the surface? One day when Orzammar is gone for good, they'll find out differently. Those Darkspawn won't have anywhere else to go but up, and they'll do it. The surface folk will have themselves a blight that will never end. Transcript of a conversation with a member of the Dwarven Mining Cast, 890 blessed. Cool. Even after hearing you are a warden, she immediately dampens her hopes. Yeah, although I can't say I blame her, because I would guess getting her hopes up is probably a bit intense, because the higher your hopes, the more capacity you have for disappointment, so it makes sense. In praise of the humble Nug. I once served a human some Nug, and he proclaimed that it was like eating an unholy union of pork and hare. The idea disturbed him so much that he declined to finish his serving and made himself content with some stale bread. Of course, this only goes to show that surfacers, human or otherwise, have tragically unrefined palates. The Nug is surely the most delicious animal I have ever tasted. Only a dead man would not salivate at the thought of a tender morsel of roast nug melting in his mouth. The Paragon Varen, although his house has fallen, shall always be remembered for discovering the wonders of nug flesh. Admittedly, it was discovered only out of desperation when he was separated from his legion and lost in the deep roads for a week, but we won't hold that against the good Paragon. While nug pancakes and nuggets, my own children love these, are the nug dishes one encounters most often, nug can be prepared in other interesting and elegant ways. The late King Ansgar Dukin adored nug, seared on a hot metal plate and finished in the oven, and dressed in a cream sauce flavored with deep mushrooms. You must be careful when using the mushrooms from the deep roads, because they often grow close to darkspawn bodies. They say that this is what gives them their unique flavor, intoxicating scent, but it also means that consuming too many of them may result in curious afflictions of the mind. From In Praise of a Noble Nug, of a Humble Nug, by Bragan Tolban, honored chef to the House Idukin. So many things to read about. This is great. Orzammar politics. This ought to be good. As dangerous as it is to mistake a dwarf's caste, it is far more deadly to mistake his alliances among the noble houses of Orzammar. Everyone in the city is allied with someone, whether by blood or by word. The nobles do not engage directly in commerce themselves, as that is the domain of the merchant caste, but they do serve as patrons. They invest in shops or in artisans' work, and in turn reap a share of the profits as well as a measure of the credit. Merchants and warriors alike benefit from the service of a prestigious patron. The relative power of each house is ever-changing. It is usually safe to assume that whichever noble house holds the throne is at the top of the heap, but below that, things grow into a tangled mess. Houses ally with one another by marriage. They earn rank and prestige when combatants loyal to them, or from their own bloodlines, win provings. They earn it when the artisans they patronize become sought after or well regarded, or when the merchants they invest in become successful. The degrees of power that these achievements confer is so murky, even to the dwarves, that it isn't unusual for nobles to challenge each other to provings over whose smith forges better belt buckles, or whose servants have the best manners. Nor is it out of the ordinary to find two merchants arguing over whose noble patron has won the most acclaim, for the rank of patron is the rank of the client. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the assembly, where the Deshers, representatives of each noble house, meet. Although the king technically rules Orzammar, kings are elected by the assembly, and so each king must work constantly to maintain the support of the Deshers. Kings who prove unpopular find their heirs deemed unacceptable to inherit the throne. Power then passes to another house. Thanks, Brother Genitivi, for more knowledge. Legion of the Dead. Yes, stone greetings, friend. You will fight ceaselessly in the Legion of the Dead. Motto of the Legion of the Dead. The Legion accepts all. So I was told by one of the Legionnaires himself, a dwarf who waited quietly at the entrance to the deep roads for the rest of his unit to assemble. They gathered slowly, each equipped with heavy armor and fine weapons, each painted with grim tattoos applied at their funerals at the night previous. For that is the nature of the Legion. They are all dead. Any dwarf may join the Legion so long as he is willing to give up everything he has. The funeral rites are somber, a final goodbye is said to family and loved ones, any material goods are dispersed to heirs, and last words are said, and then it is done. The new Legionnaire marches out into the deep roads, never to return. The Legion fights against the Darkspawn to the last, striking one final blow against the monsters that have claimed so much of their homeland. Many join the Legion to clear the slate. Criminals join to avoid punishment. The dishonored join so that their houses and families need not suffer on their behalf. The bankrupted join so their debts might be forgiven. A very few join for a last chance at glory, but the Legion takes them too. This group hopes to reach the fabled fortress of Bonamar, once the Legion's home, associated with the greatest of their paragons. Bonamar is a holy place. It's lost the last great blow against the Dwarven kingdoms, and its recapture would be a glorious signal to all of Orzammar. But capture it or no, all these warriors will die in the deep roads. It is a sobering thought. and I now know why the dwarves say the Legion's charge is the battlefield's most frightening sight. They have nothing left to lose. From the Stone Halls of the Dwarves by Brother Genitivi. That is basically the Grey Wardens. Like, literally, when I read that, like halfway through this, I'm reading that, I'm like, that's what Grey Wardens do. I mean, I basically got out of being in big trouble by Duncan plucking me and sending me into the Wardens. So the dwarves essentially have a version of the Grey Wardens that they use where they're basically preying on the vulnerable. They force them into a situation where they're fighting against them. Grey Warden, I mean, I got picked and that was it. Drink the Darkspawn blood, and if you die, you die. If you don't, then cool. You'll probably die eventually in a fight against the Darkspawn. So, you know, these different societies have come up with ways to try to handle the infestation of the Darkspawn. Dwarven faith. The chant of light is almost never heard in the halls of Orzammar. This is hardly surprising, for unlike the elves, who were literally abandoned by their gods, or the Tevinters, who worship dragons, the dwarves have no gods at all. Even the concept of worship is foreign in Orzammar. Instead, the dwarves seem to venerate the stone, a name they give to the earth itself. This seems practical for people living underground, if perhaps a bit unimaginative. For guidance in spiritual matters, they turn to their ancestors. These ancestors, who are said to have returned to the stone, communicate their wishes to the living via brutal trials by combat called provings. The ancestors' collective wisdom is maintained by the Shaperate, which can apparently store records in Lyrium itself. Set above the ancestors, above even kings, are the Paragons, dwarves who have achieved such greatness that they are elevated almost to godhood. These are the great figures holding up the hallway that leads from the surface, the first glimpse of Orzammar that outsiders see. Interesting. So that dwarf wanting to bring the Chantry to Orzammar would be pretty wild, given the context. The Wall of Memories. Blessing of the Shaperate is given only to those who walk with the stone. It is a path that cuts deep, and the road is far from secure. But those who desire to work in memory must first honor it. Document the stone, protect her, and present a new history to the memories. Only then will the blessing of the Shaperate be upon you, from the Shaper's life. Orzammar has carved a legacy from the stone, but history is more than the comings and goings that fill the streets. These caverns are old cuts and well-traveled. The true will of the stone is revealed far from the halls of politics and commerce. The Shaper must step away from the familiar and seek out revelations from the frontier, or buried secrets from the paths abandoned. The Shaper must first walk away if he is to ever return. First steps from the Shaper's life. Interesting. Oh, I gotta do dexterity. I'm going to use this just as a quick opportunity to say, if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks so much for watching this. I really appreciate that you're here. Those of you that are here on Twitch following with me live, I am glad that you are here as well. Thank you for all of your awesome support of the channel. It really means a lot to me. Those of you that sub to me on YouTube or that follow me on YouTube, I guess sub to me on YouTube and follow me on Twitch. Thank you very much for that. I know we're doing a lot of reading. It's kind of a slow-moving episode today. I'm actually really enjoying getting the lore, getting the lay of the land. It gives us a lot more to use when the time comes for us to make some tough decisions down here. I also really love reading this lore, so I hope you're enjoying it as well. But as always, thank you so much for supporting what I do. It really means a lot. Traditional Dwarven folk songs. Nug sits in the mug. Nug wiggles his ears. You catch the Nug, he slips away. Nug gets to live another day. Nug sits in the mud. Nug wiggles his toes. You hook the Nug, he slips away. Now the Nug runs off to play. Nug sits in the mug. Nug wiggles his nose. You tickle the Nug, he laughs away. Now the Nug sits on my plate. Nug pancakes, a well-loved Dwarven nursery rhyme. Gloves of Diligence. Search for the Prophet. The search for the true prophet in this tattered tome explores the possibility that Andraste was a powerful mage and not the Maker's chosen. Seems this book was saved from the fire at some point. Alright, I think we read everything that there is to read in here. So let's talk to this guy.
When I last walked this hall, Endrin was king and Orzammar was at peace. The memories often speak of the swiftness with which change overtakes us. But it is different to see it firsthand. I apologize, Warden. I should not burden a stranger with such thoughts. I am Zebor, the Shaper of Memories.
Shaper of Memories?
The Shaper guards Orzammar's knowledge. We have preserved in Lyrium all of the records of Dwarven history. The memories record all. They are how we know to which family a child owes life, how we trace lost ties. They ensure we forget nothing of our past, good or bad.
Let's talk about Orzammar, Lord Shaper.
Ask, and I shall do my best to answer.
How did the caste system come to be?
According to our legends, 7 brothers founded our empire. The youngest, Bloadlik, was the wisest and was chosen king. His children formed the noble caste. The eldest, Giachet, trained his sons to defend their king. They became the warrior caste. Shatgyar founded the artisans. Orzatyar forged our first swords. It was Orzammar who dug the mines that became our city's foundations. The twins Koapar and Noct both founded trading houses, but Noct was wounded in battle. On his recovery, he swore to serve his brother's sons.
What about the casteless?
The casteless descend from criminals and those repudiated by their own families, or who chose to go to the surface and live by human laws. They have no ancestors to guide them and no families to claim them. They should not have been born. Their parents defied their shame and brought cursed children into the world. It's better they die young.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm all for punishing criminals, man. Wow. Punishing a child for the sins of their parents is just the most backward ass thing. Absolutely ridiculous. And the nonchalance with which this guy says that. They should not have been born. Well, they were. Their parents defiled in shame. Their parents defiled their shame and brought their cursed children into the world. It's better they die young. My God. I don't even know that I could come up with a good reason for that. Like, you're punishing somebody, the kid, for something that they have absolutely no part in. Nobody asks to be born. It's not like that kid said, hey, give me criminal parents. I'm going to do the same thing. Wowzers, man. Wow, 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 wow. Isn't the entire point, this is a little bit of an aside, but like, isn't the entire point of preserving your history so that you could learn from it and so that you could try to do better going forward? Like, I find it just immensely absurd how rigidly they cling to this. And I understand that the idea of bringing in wide systemic change It's terrifying. It's not easy. I'm not trying to suggest that the dwarves could change this entire system overnight. Like, I understand that it's not realistic to expect that all of a sudden we're going to do better. But you could start. Like, you could start doing things differently and challenging it. And we saw that a little bit. Again, the guy in the bar that we ran into is a perfect example of that. He's taking history, he's taking context, and he's thinking critically about it. This very much has MyHeritage vibes to it. Now, and I realize that this guy is he's just a scholar that archives this stuff. I realize that he's not adding judgment to this, although he by saying it's better they die young. I mean, he's maybe not. It's a bit odd to say this because, like, if you knew you were going to be born into a terrible slum and live a horrible life of where you could be injured and hurt and picked on with no recourse, I don't know that I'd want that. I don't know. I mean, if somebody came to me and said, "All right, Ryan, here's your choice. You could be born. If you're born, you're going to be born into slums, into dangerous circumstances, disease, and people can just hurt you and there's no accountability for that. You are just a doormat. Or you could just not be born." Oh, and by the way, there's no way for you to get out of that. There's absolutely no upward mobility. None. You're locked in, buddy. I don't know that I'm taking that chance. I might be like, nah. Problem is, that's not how this actually works. Like, these children don't get that opportunity to decide whether or not they're born into that. These kids show up, and then they're just like, nah, kill him. Castless. Brand him. Even though they've done nothing wrong. You could have very real Paragon potential in some of these kids. And they're just shutting it out. Because your parents sucked. Also, your parents sucked relative to a morality system that we've defined. Like, it's not... Like, you could have your caste stripped for whatever. You could be considered a criminal for whatever. Because these rules and laws are made by one particular group of people. So you could even have different sets of morality amongst this caste system that then, because certain castes have more power than the others get to basically take their morality systems and shove it onto the others. The system sucks. It's terrible, man. I don't know how this benefits you all. Reminds me of the quote, "I am somehow less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops." Yep. I love that both of these hold this guy accountable to that. Now, I can't talk to somebody who thinks that is not particularly useful. I can talk to him. I'm not going to like it. I can. It seems easy for you to dismiss them.
Their births are not recorded in the memories. In Orzammar, they do not exist. Is there something more pleasant you wish to discuss?
No! How fucked up is that? Who's doing something about that? Why does that exist? I have so many questions. Tell me more of it. Tell me more of Orzammar. Oh, man. But that's why there's absolutely no accountability to treating them like shit. They're not on the grid. What a message. That is the ultimate way to hold people down, is to scare them into being casteless. Don't become a criminal, because if you become a criminal, you're casteless. And then if you have children, those children are marked forever. My guess is that they're probably trying to use that as some form of a priori accountability. But You're punishing the wrong people. Tell me more of Orzamar's history.
We were a great empire once, outnumbering even humans and elves. We traded with your Tevinter Imperium, and our land stretched as far in the deep roads as theirs did above. Kal Sharok was capital then, but we lost too many battles. We lost our golems, and we lost our territory. Now the Empire is simply ruined tunnels filled with darkspawn.
Okay, you know what? This also comes to mind here. I'm gonna backtrack just a hair. Caste system as it exists here has a veneer of utility that is not actually true. What's actually happening here is that the dwarves are quite literally hamstringing themselves by perpetuating this system. And so the question that follows that is, well, why would you perpetuate a system like this? And I really think it comes down to some really complicated intergroup dynamics and a general sense of fear amongst the ruling class. It is to the benefit of everybody involved that the people in this dwarven society are able to have access to whatever is going to allow them to bring their skills to the table. So you would want, if there's a dwarf, for example, that's born casteless, for example, that has an amazing talent and eye for blacksmithing, well, if you can get that person into a space where they are cultivated for that skill, you now have an incredible blacksmith available to you. And that applies to anything, right? So you have people that have access to a diverse range of opportunities so that they can actually get to a spot where they are contributing to society in a very meaningful way. Problem with that is incredibly threatening to the status of the people who are in the nobility who perhaps don't have anything to offer or have very little to offer aside from their title. So what happens when you have a person who is in the servant class who shows an incredible affinity for fighting skill, and then you have a person in the nobility who is born who shows that they don't have much of an affinity for much of anything in that way, who perhaps would be a really awesome sous chef down in the common area. And that's their lane. Well, if you create this arbitrary status of nobility, what you would see that as is a threat to your status. You essentially lose power if you don't have skill. So what better way for us to maintain our power that we have grabbed in the beginning than to create an oppressive system that makes it so that people can't go up, and then we attribute it to a sense of culture and that this is how it's always been, to spirituality even, so that people don't question that system. Right? So now you have a system that's not particularly useful to anybody. It allows people in positions of power to maintain that power, but it's really like a pseudo power. And now you have a system that breaks down, which is why we're seeing this entire system of Orzammar is breaking down right now, because they have not cultivated a system where people are actually able to achieve their best self in it. And it's really sad. Because in order to equalize power and privilege, you have to, people in positions of higher power have to give some of that up. And people below get some. Or you have to pull people below all the way up. And that, again, is perceived as threatening. So we create very arbitrary lines. Humans, dwarves, elves, you name it, more than anything else, want to survive. The way that you survive generally in the world is by having resources. Once you have resources, once you have power and control, you are more likely to survive. People don't give that up very easily. But what they often don't realize is that if everybody's survivability goes up, it is to the benefit of everyone. And the saddest part of this whole thing is we have a very select few people who can actually make that change. So when we try to look at people like the castless or the servants and we say, well, push up. All you got to do is just fight the system, unionize. Well, that's kind of true. That perpetuates the sense that the nobility can't do anything about it. When at any point in time, people who are in the positions of power could decide to try to change this system and have the power to do so. They're choosing not to. That's a problem. Always look up. Always look systemically. All right. Now that I got that out of my system, let's get back to this conversation. Where's Kal Shirak?
At the other side of the old empire. During the last Blight, the kings of Orzammar knew they couldn't hold everything. They sealed the deep roads, abandoning everyone still trapped in far-flung settlements. It was the only way to survive. Kal Shirak is the only other city to outlast the Blight. We only rediscovered them recently, and they still haven't forgiven us.
How'd you lose your golems?
The Paragon Caridin, a smith of unsurpassed genius, invented the golems. For years they were our weapon against the Darkspawn. One golem is worth a dozen dwarves in battle. But Caridin's tag is far into the deep roads. When it fell, we lost his secret to creating golems. There are books about it along these walls if you would read more.
Golems like this?
Yes. We have only a few dozen left in Orzammar, and I do not recognize this one. Where did you find it? Every golem is precious to us. We'd pay a good sum for a new find.
I'd sooner jump into a pit of lava.
Unfortunate. Was there anything else? I must tell the rest of the Shaperate about this discovery.
Oh, God, I love it.
I
Way
will
to
settle
go.
your mind if I can, Warden.
I love it. What's the difference between an ancestor and a paragon?
All dwarves who die return to the stone as ancestors, to guide their families forever. But only one every few generations rises to paragon. A paragon is a dwarf whose accomplishments change Orzammar so much that the Assembly recognizes they've been born blessed. They are venerated as living ancestors and found a new noble house forever bearing their name.
That's a huge thing. What he just said is huge, because it really gives us a significant amount of context for why they see castless children as to be forever castless. That's huge. This is where a sense of abstract spirituality is shooting them in the absolute foot and leading to terrible decisions. If you believe, okay, if it is capital T truth, that when people die, they return to the stone and they guide their successors, then it would stand to reason that if a person is a criminal and they die and they return to the stone, that is the ancestor who is influencing the successor. In this case, the child of the criminal. So what it is likely they believe is that if you are born from a criminal, you are likely to continue that life because you're being guided by people who suck. The reason that that falls apart is because that's built on a very arbitrary and constructed doctrine. We don't know that they actually return to the stone and guide the hand of successors. That's just what they've posited. That is just a belief structure. This is what gets very dangerous about using belief structures to influence societal and political decisions. This is why it's so important for us to work with observable reality. Because you start getting into abstract shit like this, you start making decisions like that. Their entire decision to brand people that are born into the casteless system makes sense through that lens. And it's why they probably believe that nobles should stay in nobility, because your ancestors are quite literally holding your hand and guiding you through it. This is why you ask questions and get context. Doesn't make it right, but now all of a sudden it makes a ton of sense. But it also makes it all the more difficult to challenge because it's built on an abstract spiritual doctrine. You are almost powerless against it because they're operating off of faith and belief. And there's really no force more powerful than that, even in the face of reality. Boy, that's what Branka was?
Branka is a paragon, now and into death. She was born a smith, but her inventions caught the Assembly's eye. Before she had seen 20 years, she created a smokeless coal. It could burn in a cave without vents and no one would choke from it. It earned her paragon status.
That's how they have the fires down here. All right, that makes a lot of sense. So like when we went into that place earlier, I was like, how do people breathe in here? There you go, smokeless coal. Damn. Where's she now?
She went into the deep roads 2 years ago, seeking out secrets of the ancient smiths. She never returned. We were a great empire, but we lost too many battles. We lost our god.
All right, cool. So, all right, done talking to him.
I'm sorry, you'll have to bother someone else with your questions.
Okay.
I hope you find what you're looking for.
You know, it's kind of wild, too, that, like, to become a Paragon, you have to make an immense contribution to the Orzammar Society or to the Dwarven Society. But that, in order to make a healthy, huge contribution, you also have to have resources in order to do that. So the deck really is stacked against the lower castes as well. Like, how is a servant going to become a Paragon? Like, what kind of, like, addition to servitude are you going to make where they're going to go, like, oh, shit, we need to make this person a living ancestor? Very difficult. Very difficult. So that's already dripping with privilege via opportunity. I was not expecting that we were going to have this much shit to talk about tonight just by walking around Orzammar. This is wild. The amount that this world is fleshed out is just such an amazing testament to BioWare. Royal Guard. That's some cool ass armor.
Greetings.
We are in the Royal Palace right now. Good question, Floaty. I'm sure it'll happen eventually, because that's what I do. Whoa! 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 What are we doing? Holy shit! How did you guys get in here?
Good on you, Warden. You caught them in the act. I guess desperate times drive people to strange things.
You think? Jesus. Take care of your people and they won't have to do this, but you're just a Royal Guard. I'm not gonna be the one. I'm not gonna lecture you, Mr. Guard. That was wild. I was not expecting to get attacked there. All metal round shield, love letter. Ooh. Gimme, 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 gimme. I don't know how to read these. These are, Dear Sir John, your ministrations, while well-intentioned, hold no promise. Do not despair, for it is not you, it is of me. I require an interval to acquaint myself with the personage you awakened. I'm certain we can maintain an amiable accord and that engagements with our mutual associations will not be awkward. Great. What is this? Glass phylactery? Many of King Endrin's belongings have been rushed into storage, including trophies of his long reign. Among the boxes is a small glass phylactery. The area is unnaturally cold. Dark shapes swirl around the slip of paper within the vial. Take the vial. The glass fractures at your touch. Oh, shit. Oh. Shale, get in there. Let's go. Whoa, whoa, why is everybody hurting so bad? What is this? Hell yeah. Really? That's it? Just some gold? Technically didn't do the rite of annulment. We didn't do the rite of annulment. We were the rite of annulment. Still feel pretty bad about that. That said, the dwarves really do some amazing, like, sculpting. The Throne of Orzammar. I thought I was about to, like, sit on it. Caged in stone. The inscription is old and worn, overlooked by most as a carving detail. The beast is foreign, but the need is familiar. Home and hearth suffer beneath strength and strangeness. These new kin of this Ferelden are better as friends than strangers, so we resist on their behalf and work with their users to bind with the stone. They no longer fear their skies, and we further our trade above. Lured from above, cornered and corralled, three standing in position. A fourth signals the throne. Stasis for the beast, so long as the king holds the throne, so long as the king wills it held. I love how some of these are, like, really kind of abstract. What's going on over here?
The prince values your support, Warden.
Oh yeah? Is that right? Let
No
me
one
in.
enters the prince's estate without an invitation.
Okay. Guess I'll go find one then. Alright, let's go to the assembly chamber. Artag, what up, dude?
Warden, it is always a blessing for Orzammar to host your order. I am Vartag Gavorn, top advisor to our good Prince Balin. What news do you bring?
I need aid against a blight.
Yes, the treaty. I've seen it in the Shaper's libraries. Now the difficulty is that the treaty only compels our king, and we are sadly lacking one of those right now.
Can I talk to Balin?
You must understand, Harrowmont hides behind his good reputation while sending spies and assassins. Balin can't know who to trust. It's been like a knife in the heart for Balin to see so many of his father's men stand with the usurper.
I thought King Indrid himself supported Harrowmont.
That hurts worst of all. That Harrowmont would take advantage of the dying king's delirium to plant such poisonous suspicions against his own son. After that, you understand why Balin cannot trust the word of a stranger, however reputable that stranger might be.
I'm not a spy, man.
Would you be willing to prove that? Harrowmont has engaged in a campaign of bribery and coercion to ensure that every house serves him. But if a neutral party, a stranger, were to approach certain key members, perhaps with irrefutable evidence of Harrowmont's deception, I'm certain my Lord Prince would show his gratitude.
Kind of evidence.
Harrowmont promised the same portion of his estate to two different Deshers, Lady Dace and Lord Helmy. Harrowmont can't possibly grant it to both of them, but they won't find out until after the vote is cast. I have copies of the promissory notes Harrowmont gave each of them. Once they see those, they should both reconsider their votes.
Where did you get these?
That's not important. If they ask, say you found them while searching the Shaper's libraries for your treaty.
There's someone you could report him to?
Normally, the Shapers would handle this sort of accusation. They are the scholars who manage our laws, histories, and genealogies. They are the final arbiters of all disputes in Orzammar. Unfortunately, the Shaper of Memories is the most important among them, and his grandfather was Lord Harrowmont's aunt's first cousin. Obviously, we cannot expect him to offer an unbiased opinion.
He'd hold a distant relative over his duty.
I guess I can't expect you surfacers to understand the importance of family in Orzammar. The Shaper is biased, and if you want Prince Balin's help, you'll have to show where your loyalties lie. Will you do it?
No, I don't want to get involved in this bullshit.
Very well. But do not expect my prince to see you as anything more than another ignorant surfacer. I will be here if you change your mind.
Oh my god, man.
The assembly is in session. Enter quietly if you wish to observe.
I absolutely want to observe this. 100% want to observe this.
Your mind has gone to dust if you think we would pass such a writ. Half our houses would go broke without the surface trade.
The proposal is only effective until we have a king to ensure we are respected by the surfacers.
Leaving you conveniently positioned to take over all contracts. I'll see your head on a pike first.
Deshers, lords and ladies of the Assembly. I've already doubled the guard to prevent violence. Must I summon more?
Steward Bandalore, Balin's sympathizers are tying our hands with trivialities. They may as well open us to the sky.
I suggest we put the matter to a vote.
And I suggest you have a taste of my family's mace.
Enough! The Assembly is in recess until the members can regain control of their emotions.
You'd call on that, big dog. Alright, I would love to know more about what just happened in there.
Forsaken fools and dusters. I'm sorry. This is the Assembly of the Clans. Only Deshers and occasional guests of state are allowed in.
Just observing, pay me no mind.
Oh, Stone. You must be the Grey Warden. I completely forgot about the Gate Guard's message. Welcome to Orzammar, Warden. I hope you can forgive our unrest. The loss of our king has hit us hard. Respect for your role is great, but you won't receive a proper hearing until we have a king on the throne.
Who has the authority to aid me?
Dulin Verender, Harrowmont's man, can be found at the Harrowmont estate. Vartag Gavorn, Prince Balin's second, is often here in the Assembly. I only wish there was more I could do for you. Warden, I'm afraid the Assembly is still locked in debate. What can I do for you?
The answer to that is yes. Dead Snark. It does count. Okay. How's the election looking?
At this point, they're stone for stone. I wouldn't put any coin on the outcome. It's still up in the air, though. One big surprise, and it could go either way. Warden, I'm afraid the Assembly is still locked in debate. What can I do for you?
Is there any way I can break this?
I must admit, Warden, I am at a loss myself. It lies with Prince Balin or Lord Harrowmont, and they are slow to trust anyone in these uncertain times.
No kidding.
Dulin Verender, Harrowmont's... I only wish there was more I could do for you.
Oh man, this big sucks. This really sucks. That I have to choose one of them with absolutely no context for that decision at all. And we've gone everywhere there is to go. Like, at this point, I quite literally have to choose who I'm going to fight for. I'm going to see if I can go out here and go to the Proving Grounds.
News of the hour. Lord Harrowmont's insinuations against Lord Balin reveal the truth. Could Harrowmont be the true cause of King Endrin's death? Shocking allegations.
Oh my god.
News of the hour. Lord Balin promises radical changes that will affect...
As a reminder, I just want to make sure that I say this to both folks that hang out on Twitch and folks on YouTube. Please do not backseat or spoil anything. This is a blind run. I know there are probably some things that maybe I have missed or I could find. Just please make sure that you do not backseat in any way, shape, or form. It's a quick route to get timed out or banned. That includes YouTube comments. I do not appreciate backseating. I know it comes from a good place that people want to help out, but ultimately all it does is frustrate the experience. So I do appreciate how awesome all of you have been during this playthrough on it, but I like to say a reminder periodically. And the decisions we make are the decisions we live with. It's how every playthrough I ever do goes. So we live with the consequences. Alright, I want to go to the Proving Grounds and just see if there's anything that we can learn there.
I do not understand why you hate birds so much.
It is because I had to endure their chirping, their perching, and most especially their constant
No, I understand that part, but they were just being what they are.
Exactly. Disgusting vermin with wings. Darkspawn must be exterminated for being what they are as well.
But a bird is a creature of grace and beauty. They open their mouths and they sing.
The bard hears music. I hear a wail of banshees that boils my blood.
But what about a nightingale? Or a swan?
They're not pigeons, it is true. Still, evil beasts of the sky.
I give up.
Jail makes a good point. I do love that they're trying to connect with Shale.
The Proving Ground.
This is so exciting.
Bloodsport entertainment for the masses, at its best.
Yeah, no kidding, Alistair.
Good day, stranger. Welcome to the Proving Arena. We're still closed until the fighters make their preparations, but come back this afternoon if you want to watch the show.
What show?
Prince Balin called a citywide proving this afternoon to honor King Endrin's memory. All the best fighters in Orzammar will face each other in sight of the ancestors and win honor for their champions.
All right, I'll come back then.
Enjoy our grand city.
Oh, BioWare, you are gonna force me to pick. You are gonna force me to pick. Which is a decision that I'm going to sleep on. And am going to make in part 18. Friends on YouTube, thank you so much for taking the time to watch through part 17. I really appreciate you all. I am so glad that you would take the time to watch these episodes, to follow along with the playthrough. I hope my thoughts add some extra to the playthrough in some kind of way. I've been very appreciative of all the comments that say nice things about the stream, but I welcome all feedback about it. I don't claim to be right on everything that I talk about. It's just my perspective, and people seem to like it, so I keep giving it. I will, we're gonna hit the ground running in part 18. So I hope you're ready. As always, leave a like on the stream on your way out. Leave a comment. Follow all the links in the description. If you support the stream financially by being a member or by purchasing merchandise or listening to my music on Spotify or Apple Music, thank you very much for the financial support of the stream. More than anything else, thank you for being here, and thank you for telling people about it. And I will catch you, part 18. Our playthrough's an adult now. Later.